So on Thursday, North Carolina State made the announcement that they were parting ways with head coach Jennifer Patrick Swift and her husband. For more details on the situation in North Carolina State, we bring in our good friend Justin McLeod at Extra Innings Softball, who is now in Raleigh, North Carolina, covering this story among other things that he's covering in Raleigh. Justin, uh, I guess the first question I have for you is, what's your reaction to this news coming out of NC State where you're at? What's kind of the mood over there?
I mean, to be honest with you, I can't remember a coaching move that happened this early. I mean, sure, there have been a couple early in the season over time, not of this magnitude and not with nothing, nothing behind it, no public reasoning type of thing. So, I mean, there's a certain level of surprise, certain level of wait, what is this kind of idea? But it really seems like the general feel is one of an expected thing happening. I mean, it sounds kind of bad to say it that way, but I think a lot of people did expect this to happen, just maybe didn't expect it to happen now.
Right, the timing's unique in that regard. Uh, the director of athletics at NC State, Boo Corrigan, made this following comment in the press release. After careful consideration, we decided to make a change in the leadership of our softball program. We will begin a national search following the conclusion of the season. We wish Jennifer the best in the future, said Corrigan. Also, assistant coach Patrick Swift, obviously the husband of Jennifer Patrick Swift, will also not return. Now, this has been a dilemma here, Justin. You first reported, right, I believe it was before the season. You could correct me on the timetables. Right before the season, on news that the pitching coach had departed from NC State. Kind of give us the story on that.
So Qatar DeVries um, actually played at St. Francis for Jennifer Patrick Swift and Patrick Swift. She was a player when they were head coach and assistant at St. Francis. DeVries graduated. She entered the coaching world, coached at Bucknell, coached at Seton Hall, then goes to NC State to be the pitching coach for Jennifer Patrick Swift and alongside Patrick Swift as an assistant coach. And then a few weeks before this season, after a year and a half with the program, DeVries is suddenly not there anymore. She's off the team website. She's doing, working privately in softball, and she's suddenly not a coach there anymore. So that itself was a very unexpected situation, especially considering the past tie that DeVries had to the Swifts. That was not something that I think anybody anticipated happening, and certainly not something they anticipated to happen then or that way.
Now, NC State is not in Raleigh this week, and obviously they played Virginia Tech, an
Mhm.
ACC conference to start. The question that everybody's asking and asked is, well, who's taking over this program? What does the coaching staff look like, considering the Swifts are gone, the pitching coach gone? So, what is the outlook for this North Carolina State coaching staff moving forward for the rest of this season?
So when I asked the NC State spokesperson for that, honestly, that exact answer, what I was told was that Devin Boland, who came to the NC State staff as a video analyst, had been an assistant coach at a community college in Iowa, came to NC State as a video analyst. I believe he was a volunteer in that role initially, was moved up to a director of operations position. I believe it was after Qatar DeVries left in January. Boland will now be what amounts to the interim head coach on the field. So game decisions, that kind of thing will be his to make. Carson Shaner, who had been a graduate assistant for the program, is now listed as an assistant coach. So she's still there. She'll still coach, and those two will be the on-field grouping of coaches, I guess. And then from an off-field perspective, everything office-wise, I'm guessing, and all that, Stephanie Minio, who is a deputy athletic director at NC State, will effectively, it wasn't phrased this way, but effectively serve as the interim head coach when it comes to the off field duties. Those will be her responsibilities, those will be her decisions, etc. So it's a really odd, honestly, mix. Now, one thing I have heard is there are a couple of individuals that could take step into roles if the administration decides it's something they want to do. I know that Miranda Irvin Rodriguez, who is a former D1 head coach, she coached in the professional league, the NPF back in the day, is actually the color analyst for NC State's ACC Network Plus broadcasts. So even though you've got the staff doing what it's doing, you don't have anybody who has Division I coaching experience. Well, in your broadcast booth, you do. So personally, I think it would be the most advantageous thing. I don't know if it'll happen, whether it's the most advantageous thing or not, but that's certainly something worth keeping an eye on too, especially with so much of the season left.
That's my next question to you. Why now? What can you share of why now, based on since you've been in Raleigh, North Carolina, and what you know? Obviously, they're off to a slow start this season, but why now versus later in the season, for example, which is normally when we would see a move. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is one of the earliest departures,
Mm-hmm.
especially at this level of a Power Five job, this early. I can't remember one this early. Justin, you follow this a lot longer than I have. I don't remember one this early in a major program. Maybe in some of the smaller schools we've seen
Sure.
this, but not in a high profile job like a job in the ACC conference.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be honest, I think that's the question on everybody's mind. Why now? From a reasonable, no extra reasons, just I'm a reasonable person. What do I think of this? It doesn't make sense. You've got 3 months of the season left. You're less than a month into the season. If you were going to get rid of him, why didn't it happen before the season? Why didn't it happen last summer? If you want to get rid of him, why not wait until the end of this season? You're going to pay him anyway. What's the? And to be honest, I don't know that there's a good answer for that at this point. I don't know that there's an obvious, oh, well, this is why. I do know that a lot of the conversation and a lot of the chatter since this move happened has revolved around culture. Obviously, that's something that it's used as a buzzword a lot of times, but also it is important. You have to have a good team culture. I know that's something that a lot of people have pointed to as potentially part of the reason for the timing here. But at the same time, I mean, I also wonder honestly if Boo Corrigan just decided, okay, he was ready to be done. If NC State had their fill, so to speak. But honestly, I don't think this was based on field results by any means. But I will say this: NC State lost to East Tennessee State at home this past weekend. They also lost to James Madison in a 14-11 game. It was high scoring but kind of messy. So on field could have been a part of exacerbating the timing on this one. Like it's definitely not the reason behind it, but it could be part of exacerbating and hastening the time frame here. Um, and two, there could be other outlying circumstances where NC State just said, you know what, we're going to pay you anyway, but we want the team to feel something different for the next few months before we bring a new coach in. Um, and then so bye. I mean, it could be something as simple as that.
Right. We won't get into any potential off the field
Sure.
stuff because we don't know. It's everything speculating. So we're just going to focus on the field. What we can tell you on the field is they didn't make the NCAA tournament under Coach Swift. Obviously, it didn't work out. Why didn't this work out on the field?
Well, when the Swifts came in, the home run mindset was their thing. Call it famous, call it infamous. That was their thing. Um, their park at NC State here in Raleigh certainly lends itself to hitting a lot of home runs. But I think one thing that was found out was hitting a lot of home runs doesn't necessarily mean you win a lot of ball games. It helps. It's not a bad thing. You do win some ball games. It doesn't automatically make you world beaters. I think that definitely played a role in it. I also think, things like if you look at some of the players who left NC State and went transferred to other schools and what they did at other schools, I think of April Visser, who went to UNLV. I think of Sydney Nestor, who went to Marshall. I think of Estelle Check, who went to Texas. There's a list of talent that went to other schools. I mean, Estelle Check was a relied upon piece of that Texas team last year. Sydney Nestor might be the best pitcher in the Sun Belt Conference this year. She was the best pitcher in Conference USA last year. April Visser hit something like 18 home runs and close to 400 at UNLV last year. all of those players could have been on NC State's roster, but all left and all found success elsewhere that they didn't find at NC State. So I think the talent development is something worth mentioning too. Um, it works in some places and doesn't work in others, and I think we saw some of that in this instance.
We're speaking with Justin McLeod of Extra Innings Softball, who is in Raleigh, North Carolina, covering this story, developing story. North Carolina State parting ways with head coach Jennifer Patrick Swift and her husband as well in this deal. So obviously now this is going to be a question that's going to be asked all season long, which is who's going to be the next head coach. We've seen this in football, Justin, a lot, where football coaches the schools make a move, and it's speculated throughout the year. No different here. This job, I'm sure where you're at, there's already names being floated. I want to first start before we get to that. What kind of job is North Carolina State? Is it a good job or not? Because I've heard mixed opinions on that.
I would call it mid-pack, no pun intended.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Genuinely not intended that time either. Um, I think it is a solid job. I think it is NC State is a place that a softball coach can win. At the same time, I don't think the level of commitment from the school is to the point where you can win a lot or you can be ready made to win. It's going to take some work. For instance, Jennifer Patrick Swift, from a financial standpoint, was not one of the higher paid coaches in the ACC, not one of the lower paid in the Power Five, as a matter of fact. Um, that's an important factor because how much you pay is going to matter to what coach you pull in. Somebody's not going to take a pay cut to come in to coach this team, especially in the state of disarray that the program finds itself. Um, Raleigh, North Carolina, the surrounding states. I mean, you have a good talent base. You do have you have a nice enough stadium. You're landlocked, but you've got some facilities that are solid, if not spectacular. Um, it's conveniently located. So I think NC State's got things going for it. It's a good institution. I think you can win. I don't think you're talking about a regular super regional program. I think you're talking about a regular postseason program, the potential for it, with a super regional thrown in every now and then, potential for one. Um, so I think it's something that should attract some solid candidates. I think it's a job that some people it will be sought after by some people. But I don't think it's a world beater job. I don't think it's a win the World Series job. The right person can come in, and if they choose this is where they want to be versus using it as a stepping stone, they can do some good at NC State. It's just got to be the right person, the right fit.
How much of this is influenced by also the fact you've got Clemson and Duke, programs that are very young programs, are in the top 20 in the country competing. Have both been to a super regional, both once again, looks like a teams that could go deep into postseason this year. You have a
Mhm.
program like Charlotte and the job that Ashley Chastain has done. They're off to a really good start this year. They made some noise last year in the top 25. That's in the same state as NC State. Charlotte's moving to the American. Ashley Chastain could become a hot name in the coaching industry. How much is all that playing a role in this situation with NC State?
I think it plays a huge role. First and foremost, in the ACC, we've seen ACC softball rise. Well, NC State has not risen with it. In the state of North Carolina, you have two softball blue bloods in North Carolina and NC State, not blue bloods in the sense of success, but they've been around a while. And Duke comes in and blows them away in the first 6, 7 years, blows them away, blows them out of the water. Um, I think it plays a huge role. Duke and Clemson are seeing fan turnout, they're seeing success, they're seeing super regional berths, they're seeing talent development. Whereas NC State, wasn't seeing that. They weren't making postseason. And you mentioned Charlotte, even in state, you're getting lapped by programs that are not Power Five, that don't have access to the same resources, whether that's financial or otherwise. That's not going to leave a good taste in anybody's mouth at an ACC school. So I think to your point, it's a huge part of it. You don't want to be passed like that. You certainly don't want to be passed that often and by programs that on paper should be inferior and yet are not. So I think to your point, it plays a huge role in it. I think it's a huge factor.
Right now in X Rating Softball, there's a article you have up there about the top candidates you will have up there, but the top candidates for this job. We're not going to read off the names because we want people to obviously click on your article. You
Thank
got
you.
to, yeah. After all, somebody's got to pay for your trip to Raleigh, North Carolina. After all, right? So I just want to go at it this way then. what type of coach should NC State go after for the next head coaching job? What kind of coach should they go after? Obviously, they went after Jennifer Patrick Swift last time over out of from St. Francis. I think Rychek came from up in the Northeast as well. What
Boston University.
what kind of coach should they target? Is it a sitting head coach? Is it a Power 5 assistant coach? Is it another mid-major head coach? What direction should they go if Boo Corrigan called you, Justin, and said, what direction should I go?
So to your point, the last two coaches that NC State's hired were both small market, mid-major, Northeast head coaches. I feel pretty safe in saying that it will not, the next head coach at NC State will not be a small market, mid-major, Northeast head coach. Watch me say that and be proven wrong, but I feel pretty confident in it. The important to note too, though, is that this is Boo Corrigan's first softball hire at NC State. That's an important piece of this puzzle, because this is not. Yes, the last two sure were mid-major small market coaches, but Boo Corrigan didn't hire them. So it's easy to say, well, this won't be another mid-major head coach, but maybe Boo Corrigan's most impressed by a mid-major head coach, someone who has experience leading their own program. I think the biggest factor for me is going to be first and foremost, what does NC State put the most value in? Do they put the most value in having run a program and having success doing that? Or do they put the most value in having Power Five experience? Or do they put value in somebody who's done both? To me, I think it's important to have that Power Five experience. I think that makes a big difference because in the Power Five, it's just a different thing than at most mid majors, especially in softball. The access to resources and how you run your program, how you conduct things, it's just different. Um, I think that's something that NC State does need to prioritize, not something they've had the last couple of times, not necessarily something that was egregiously missing, like not something that became part of this incident, the Swift's firing here, but I think it makes a big difference. I think it does help to have that Power Five experience in a candidate. And honestly, at the same time, I think it's important for somebody who's run their own program. What running their own program means, I don't know, but I think somebody who has a nice mix of those two would be a good thing for them. But I think most importantly, you need somebody who's been in the Power Five, who knows how Power Five softball is played, who knows the important things, who knows where to put the emphasis. I think that's super important for NC State, whether that's one factor, the main factor, the only factor. I definitely think it should be on the list.
Ties to the region, the state?
I think it makes a huge difference. I think we've seen some. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I do think we've seen some. There's some travel ball coaches, high school coaches in the state of North Carolina who maybe aren't unhappy that this move was made today. And you always want to make sure those relationships are there. You want to make sure that the relationships with the ones who are fostering and breeding the next generation of players that could come to be parts of the Wolfpack. Like you want to make sure those relationships are there. So I do think that's important. I think it plays a role. I think in this case, actually, I think it plays a bigger role than maybe in most searches. Usually, yeah, it's considerate, but in this one, I do think that's something that definitely could help put a candidate over the top. If they have relationships existing, or at least have experience in the region, and something to go back on in the region.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. As is mentioned in the press release, this will be a national search that they're going to do after the season, but that will not stop the speculation for
Correct.
sure on this situation in North Carolina State. Justin McLeod of Extra Innings Softball reporting from Raleigh, North Carolina, which kind of worked out that way. You ended up being
It
there,
did.
Justin. You have tons of coverage on this story on Extra Innings Softball from Raleigh, sir, that you can tell the audience what to expect from Raleigh there.
Yeah, up now actually on the extra inning softball, we've got a job profile, like kind of some of the same stuff we've talked about here. What the job looks like, what a new candidate might see, good and bad. What we've seen over the last few years at NC State, and we do have a candidate list of who some of the potential candidates for head coach might be. So we've got that up now, and there'll be more to come. I mean, you don't see a firing like this in March, so it's not just going to go away into the night.
Do you think this is this a sign? Could we be headed for a busy off season of moves in the head coaching? Is this just is this just one of those kind of aberration? I mean, what do you make? I mean, is this a tone setter here that we could see more moves coming at the end of the season?
We're in for a busy year. I think this sets the tone for what this year's going to look like. I think it also sets the tone for what future years would look like, and because now the precedent is set, you
Hmm.
can fire a softball coach mid-season. If you're going to pay him out from March. Don't worry about waiting until May. I don't think we'll see it too often, but it does set a precedent. But yeah, I do think we're in for a busy year, and I think it's starting way early.
Wow. All right, Justin. We'll look forward to it. There, appreciate you joining us on this
Yeah,
last minute on this developing story as you're working on it from Raleigh, North Carolina, covering this situation here with North Carolina State parting ways with head coach Jennifer Patrick Swift. Thank you, Justin.
appreciate it.